Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and NFL defensive back. And of course, today, as you can see, I got my Ravens flock member with me, Coach Evan, to break down everything pertaining to the San Francisco 49ers versus Baltimore Ravens Christmas Day matchup. We got some MVP talk we're going to get off, and he has a nice little take I can't wait to discuss with the 49er faithful. But first, we got to let everybody know that you know this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. And if you don't already have Underdog Fantasy, go to underdogfantasy.com or download the Underdog Fantasy app. Use promo code Crocky when they ask how you found out about them, and they will double your deposit up to $100. It's Thursday night football tonight, so we got Underdog Fantasy plays going up. We got NBA plays going up. Wimbiana, you know what I'm saying, his blocks, I'm taking the over on 2.5 blocks for him in this game. If you want to get in that action, go to Underdog Fantasy, download the app, use promo code Crocky. Let's go. Coach Evans,
Yes,
how you doing, man?
it's good, man. I'm excited. Excited about this matchup for Christmas Eve. It's probably going to be the best game of the year. Well, it's hyped up to be the best game of the year, and the way it panned out, two of the best teams in the NFL, and most power rankings, 1 and 2 versus each other. You can't ask for a better matchup with all eyes on this. And I made a statement yesterday that the NFL, I mean not the NFL, the NBA is going to take a huge L
Mhm.
Monday night with this game.
They definitely are. I feel like I think NFL has done this now. What is this, year 2, year 3, where they started scheduling games on like Christmas Day, no matter the day. This year is like Monday night, so it kind of falls in line with Monday Night Football. But
Mhm.
previously, I think like Christmas was on like a Friday. They threw a game on there and it just did numbers. So NFL is king. I think everybody knows that by now. But let's get into some Baltimore Ravens talk. And my big thing, and we'll obviously bounce things off of each other, have questions for each other's teams. But as far as my audience goes, they have all these questions. These things that they want to know about the Ravens. So I think where we should start is, what were the Baltimore Ravens expectations entering the season? I mean, this is a team that kind of limped into the playoffs last year. Lamar Jackson missing games. I think they won 3 out of their last 7 to kind of get into the postseason, but you didn't have Lamar Jackson. And I think anybody knows when Lamar Jackson is on the field, this team is much more dangerous. But 11-3, the number 1 seed in the AFC, when everybody was looking at all these other teams, Kansas City Chiefs, they're looking at the Chargers, they're looking at the Buffalo Bills. I feel like you could name 5 or 6 teams to people would name, or the New York Jets when Aaron
Mhm.
Rodgers was expected to start. You can name all these other teams, and then finally you get to Baltimore. And then at this point, we're talking about what, week 14, 15, 16, whatever week it is, Baltimore Ravens right now sitting at the top of the AFC. What were the expectations for your team entering this year?
For me personally, and these could be purple shades going on. I did a power rankings of all 32 teams, and I finished them with one. And the way I did it was, I took every position and I kind of went 1 through 32 for every position, and not knowing we were going to be number one when I finished, because I did DBs, I did linebackers, I did D line, offensive line, so on. And when I averaged it all out and like hit the Excel sheet, we ended up being number one. And so I felt like with the addition, if Lamar can stay healthy, with the addition of some receivers, I didn't know how the question mark to me was our secondary, and that has been a lot better than I expected, and not with, and we'll probably talk about it later, not with the guy that you expect to be good. The other guy has been good, and we ended up in my expectation of 1, 2, or 3, and because of my little calculations, my Excel sheet, I had it at 1. Some people said I was crazy. We even had some homers saying we would be 12, 13, and even one guy said 17. I was like, no way. As long as Lamar's healthy, we'll be there. We got, and only snafu I was thinking new OC would take us a minute to kind of figure things out. But the way the defense played the second half of last year, I knew it would be a darn good football team, and it just needed the offense to kind of come along with it. And that's kind of what has happened so far, even with the injuries and whatnot we've had.
I think when I look at the Baltimore Ravens, I was watching the game. I actually like tweeted this out, and I watch. Everybody knows this. Like before anything, even before being a 49 fan, like I am a football fan. I just love
Mm-hmm.
football, so I'm watching every game that's on. And I haven't caught a whole bunch of Baltimore Ravens games, but a few weeks ago, I was watching the game. Must have been on prime time, and it just hit me like a Mack truck. And I said, "Damn, this Baltimore Ravens defense is fast and physical." And it kind of reminds me of what made up the Ravens in the early 2000s and the Ray Allen
Mhm.
years. I mean, Ray Lewis years. And, you and I both know, a 2012 season, the Ravens beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl, but just kind of what that defense was and what it looked like when you see the Baltimore Ravens. Do you think that the Ravens have gotten back to that? I feel like a lot of what they've done over the years, really, it's like we come and go as, Lamar Jackson goes. And if he's hurt, then we're not going to be as good. But this year it feels like, although Lamar, in my opinion, and we'll get to the MVP thing, I think he's carrying the team. That defense has a big hand in what's going on. So, or were these the expectations for y'all as far as on the defensive side of the ball with how well they're playing, and really the kind of the ascension of Kyle Hamilton, who
Yeah.
was a first round pick, and how strong he's coming on?
Well, with the addition of Roquan, the defense kind of started to change about at the trade deadline last year, so they got a lot better. Mike McDonald last year was a rookie, so he got better every game with his calls. We had a debacle versus Miami early in the season last year, and from that game forward, you could tell Mike McDonald got more comfortable and more and even better at his job. Roquan came about the trade deadline, then we start getting start putting it together defensively. So coming into the season, I felt like our defense would carry our offense until the offense caught up. Now, what I didn't expect was for Kyle Hamilton to be as good as he is. I think I think he's I'm gonna say the best player on our defense, but he's the key to our defense because you put him in there, he can do so many different things at so many different levels that you can kind of keep the same personnel out there and defend whatever they do. Now, obviously, on every defense, you're gonna have spots where you're vulnerable, but you can run that nickel type defense out there. And if you got to slide Hamilton in the box, he can play a little weak side linebacker. He could cover a little slot guy. He could be a deep safety. And when he's not in there, it looks different. And we noticed that when he got hurt 2 weeks ago, it looked a little different when he wasn't in there. But also, Roquan is being the leader that he is, and he's not Ray Lewis, but he's trying to get in that mold where he's fiery. He makes sure guys know what they have to do, and he elevates the guys around him. Because there was a stretch, probably about 4 or 5 games, where him and Pat Queen didn't have a lot of tackles, but everybody else around them played well. The D line played well, the secondary played well, and they just were getting people in position to make plays. They were making sure the alignment was right, make sure your assignment was right, and then when the D line missed stuff, they cleaned it up. So the defense has been a huge factor in what we've done so far because the offense has been shaky. There's no other way to say it. The offense has been up and down, up and down, up and down. The defense has been very solid with the exception of 2 weeks ago versus the Rams. And then the offense just kind of picked up, the defense was like that day. But the defense has been solid for 13, 14 games.
Yeah, defense playing at a high level, and I like that you talked about Kyle Hamilton and how well he's playing this year. I remember when he was drafting, I did a lot of draft coverage that year for the Locked On Network, and one thing that was floating around, he didn't run very well, right? He actually
Mm-hmm.
ran, I want to say 4.59 at the combine
Somewhere slow, some on the back end.
pro day, and ran like 4.7 or something like that. So people were like, what the hell? Like, you got a 6'4" longer, defensive back. I think it's around 220 pounds. When you watch the Florida State film, you see a guy who is super rangy and a playmaker, but then it's like, will that lack of speed end up biting them in the ass? And I think when you kind of fast forward to around the draft time, there were some people I did some shows with, some big shows on the network, and they're like, yeah, I think Kyle Hamilton, a little overrated. I think he should be a linebacker more than a guy in coverage. But then you watch him this year,
Mm-hmm.
and I think his length has really helped him. He looks more than athletic enough to be able to cover guys. You talked about covering little slot guys, him being able to do that. That's super impressive for a guy that is, 6'4". Do you think it's kind of being undersold, like kind of how good of a year he's having right now? You hear a lot of linebackers, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, how well they're doing. You don't hear a lot about Kyle Hamilton. So is this kind of like a potential like long-term Pro Bowl? Not the, I don't want to say the next great Baltimore Raven. You guys have some really good players there, but do you think he's kind of on that level with how he's playing, like of that kind of that next big puzzle piece for your defense for the long haul?
Because of his versatility, I do think he's one of those next staples for Baltimore because he can do so much. And what gives him problems is those small, twitchy slot receivers,
Yeah.
what's the name I'm thinking of? Like if Tyreek was in the slot, or some of those other smaller guys that had that real quick in and out. Those guys give him problems. But the bigger slot receivers like the Boyd for Cincinnati, he can cover those guys. I don't really see a much of a weakness in his game because the way Mike's using him, he'll line up man up on a slot guy, and then he'll be blitzing. And before this year, he was one of our like I thought him and PQ would lead our team in sacks. I didn't expect to get the pressure that we're getting from the guys up front because last year him and PQ was our best blitzers. And so I expected him to be one of the team leaders in sacks. But as far as his versatility, he can do so much that I think he's going to be a Raven for life. And if he's not, some team's going to get a great player by the time he reaches his full form because he's still not in his full form. He's just a second year player.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I think everybody kind of has a tough time against Tyreek Hill in the slot. Virtually unguardable from there, virtually unguardable from anywhere.
Yeah.
But it also should make you feel better that the 49ers don't have a jitterbug slot type guy. They have Juwan Jennings. He's more of a big slot. You do have Ray McLeod, who really like, but he's kind of been banged up, hurt. He's not doing return duty right now. He's not out there. So sometimes they'll move some receivers around. You will see Brandon Ayuk there. Brandon Ayuk is a terrific route runner. He's a legit job of really creating space. He's not the twitchiest of guys, but he's definitely more than twitchy enough. So, I think that would be a good matchup to see how does, Kyle Hamilton do against Brandon Ayuk when he's lined up in the slot. The good thing is the 49ers, at least in my humble opinion, they don't do much to really free Ayuk up. Like Ayuk wins because he's just good. But a lot of these other guys, we talked about Tyreek Hill, you'll see him be on one side, motion into the slot. Then that makes a defensive back have to kind of play off. You're not able to press a guy that motions into a spot and isn't stationary. Brandon Ayuk, more times than not, is stationary and then runs his route from there. I think that actually helps a guy like Kyle Hamilton or anybody that's defending him. But even then, a lot of times, a lot of defensive backs, they've had a really tough time guarding Brandon Ayuk.
What I like about Ayuk is he the fastest, but he gets in and out of his breaks so quick. So once he gets separation, he keeps it. Whether it be on corner, post, in, slants, or whatever. Once he gets the separation, he keeps it because he can stop and go, with the best of
them. We got Tommy in the chat, and he says, did that DB really say he doesn't respect a single player on the Niners? He just dug his own grave. I wanted to make sure we talked about this. And I just actually watched like the full audio because I'm like, Marlon Humphrey, and then he said that DB, kind of disrespectful. Marlon Humphrey, like he's a great in the league. All right, but I'm like, Marlon Humphrey, I've seen enough from him, like in the media, to know like this dude's a jokester. Like he jokes around a lot. And traveling around San Francisco 49ers fan base, you see that clip where he's like, I don't respect anybody on that team. I don't respect 49ers. And I'm like, he's got to be joking. So I went and watched, and sure enough, he was 100% joking. He was laughing. He's like, nah. Then he talked about how many great players the 49ers have. At the time that they recorded this, he hadn't dug into the film just yet, but he talked about how it's a great team. They got great players everywhere. They got all these guys are going to be Pro Bowlers or all pros. So he had a lot of respect for the 49ers, but of course, most people aren't going to do the whole full context on that. They take the clip, and then 49er fans, I don't know if y'all know out there in Baltimore, but they are an angry bunch. Like they almost treat the 49ers as if it's their kids, right? Or like their family member. Like you say anything about family member, we are on your head. So that's the entire fan base. And shoot, they do it with me because I try to be as objective as possible doing the show. And it's like, Crock, how dare you say this? Yeah. How you do it? And it's like, whoa, chill, fam. Like, just let's look at both sides of this. So with Marlon Humphrey, he was 100% joking, but 49er fans are going to.
And for the 49er fans that don't know, like as Baltimore Ravens fans, some of us, Marlon gets on some of our nerves with all the playing and laughter and whatnot. Because he's a 100% all the time jokester. The only time he may not be joking is right when the ball is snapped. But other than that, he got jokes for days. And like I was telling you before we came on, he borderline corny. Borderline. But he's our secondary, our technically leader in the secondary, and trust me, he knows what you guys have because the average fan knows what you guys have. And for him he couldn't be, if he was saying something like that, he'd have to be tested for drugs.
Right. All right, here we go. Let's get to the next topic, man. We got, why should Lamar Jackson be NFL MVP? And I'll kind of just give my take real quick on why he's in the discussion. One, you got Brock Purdy, who's the heavy favorite right now to win the NFL MVP. I look
Mhm.
at the comments. There are a lot of 49 fans that act like they don't care. It's like, oh, we don't care about that. Just win the Super Bowl. But then it's like, well, why do y'all get so upset when they say that somebody else either competing with them or over? So a lot of people do care about this MVP conversation. Now, again, everybody would love to hoist a Lombardi over the MVP, but Lamar Jackson, I think what he's doing is really kind of special.
Mhm.
If you go kind of player for player, you ask just 49er fans, right? Would you rather have, you know, Debo Samuel or Zay Flowers? Most 49er fans would say, I'd rather have Debo Samuel. If
Mhm.
you ask most 49er fans, would you rather have Brandon Ayuk or Odell Beckham? They'll say they'd rather have Odell Beckham. If you ask 49er fans, would you rather have Gus Edwards or CMC? I'd rather have CMC. If you ask most 49er fans, if you'd rather have George Kittle or Andrews, it might be a mix of them, but Andrews isn't playing. So
George Kittle.
is it likely or is it Kittle? They'll say
Mhm.
Kittle, right? So you look at really kind of position for position, the 49er fan base would take all of their players over Ravens players. But even then, Lamar Jackson, and I talked about how I feel like he's kind of carrying his team a little bit. And you see the ups and downs. You talk about some of the inconsistencies with the offense, which I think is to be expected for a quarterback who really has to put everything on his shoulders. So when they talk about him being potential MVP, he's leading this team right now to an 11-3 record. Obviously, the defense plays well, but do you think that there's a case for that Lamar Jackson should be the MVP over Brock Purdy right now?
All right. Now, MVP, most valuable player. My thing is, if you really go by the wording of that, and you think about the front runners, you think about um, Brock Purdy, you think about Dak was in it and maybe still be in it. You think about Lamar, and you think about Tyreek. And the way I do it is, would any of those teams have the remote success that they have without if you remove that person from it? And I'm just speaking on this year. So if you remove Tyreek from the Dolphins, are they 10 and whatever they are? No, but they probably got a decent record. They're probably 8 and whatever. If you take Dak out of that because of the Dallas's defense, they're probably sitting at 8 and something, probably not at the 10 win, but they're probably 7 or 8 wins. If you move Purdy out of your guys' situation, are you sitting in that situation? I don't know because I don't know what's behind Purdy, as far as a backup or whatnot. But I do know what's around him to help whoever the backup is. Now, if you take Lamar out of our situation, we might have five wins, maybe. Because we've seen what our offense looks like with Tyler Huntley for 2 straight years. So we know that if you pull him out of our offense, damn near go to shit. So if you pull just MVP, like the actual meaning, I think that's why Lamar is because he's doing way more with way less. And yes, the wide receiver room is better. Yes, the play calling is better. But I'll take, and I know you mentioned OBJ over Ayuk, but I'd still take all those guys you named over the guys we got, with the exception of quarterback. All of them. Any day of the week.
I think and I hear what you're saying. I think a better way to kind of even phrase that is if you just put a regular quarterback, like just a normal, a bottom half of the league starting quarterback on those teams, right? So let's say if you put the 23rd best quarterback on the Baltimore Ravens,
Mm-hmm.
what would that look like with him as opposed to the
Right.
23rd best quarterback on the San Francisco 49ers, right?
Exactly.
Because you
Exactly.
can say, like, on any team, if you take away their starting, if you take away Buffalo's quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
with Josh Allen, like, what does the team look like then? And you say, probably bad. And I'd say we say that about most teams. But if you just put a competent quarterback, on Baltimore Ravens or uh, a
So
quarterback that
I did that with it. I used Snoop Huntley. I used our backup. So I said if you took Huntley and put him in San Francisco, they probably wouldn't be 10 or 11 wins, whatever the number is, but they'd be okay. They'd be okay. If you took him and put him in Dallas, they'd be okay. If you took him and put him in Miami, they'd be okay. But him in Baltimore, we've seen it. They ain't okay.
yeah,
So
yeah. You saw that last year losing and losing 3 out of 4, 7 games, or excuse me,
mhm.
losing 4 out of 7 games. It's kind of creeping into the playoffs, but then kind of losing there, which is crazy because Huntley. I remember watching him in the preseason last year. And he was completing like 90% of his passes.
Yep.
I'm like, damn, this is maybe I got the best backup in the league. And then it's like, then when you got to really play, that's when you find out if a guy has the stuff to be either like kind of a starter in the league, or is like, nah, this guy needs to stay on the bench and we need Lamar to
And
stay
he
healthy?
made the Pro Bowl.
Did he?
Yes, he was a Pro Bowl quarter. Snoop made the Pro Bowl last year.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. All right, so you made your case for Lamar Jackson, but you did have kind of a take on the 49ers and their quarterback
Mhm.
situation with Brock Purdy.
I did. I do a Q&A question session on my channel, and somebody asked me like, what did I think about Brock or whatnot? And I'm paraphrasing, so I don't remember exactly, but I basically said that he's the driver of a self-driving Tesla. As long as he don't mess it up, they're gonna be good. Now I took a lot of heat from 49ers fans that actually got a chance to see that, because shorts kind of go every which kind of way. You don't really control who see them, so everybody see them. But and that's the way I felt, and I didn't mean it like I never said he sucked. I don't think he sucked. I think he's great at what he do. But I think CMC, Debo, Ayuk, because Ayuk is so underrated. People look at Ayuk and they just see like a complimentary player. No, this dude is one of the best route runners in the game. He don't have to have volume catches because y'all so efficient. And I know somebody was telling me the other day about like Brock being 32 and passing. Well, you ain't got to pass when y'all so efficient on offense. You probably scoring on 60 to 70% of your offensive clips. So why just throw it over the yard just to get numbers? Like the year Lamar won MVP. He didn't throw it a lot, but he had like 30-something touchdowns and didn't play a lot of fourth quarters. So if you're efficient, you don't have to have a boatload of numbers. But I just feel like, because those guys, I feel like he has the best supporting cast in the NFL. And that's why I made the statement I said. And I don't think he sucks. I think Kyle Shanahan said, hey, we need you to do XYZ. And he does XYZ at 100%.
I think that we have evidence at this offense with a quarterback that may or may not be a starter. I think actually right now the Raiders are telling me we don't think this guy's a starter, right? Like 49ers won a lot of games with
Jimmy G.
Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Most 49er fans now have kind of looked and said, like, damn, was he trash the whole time? And Kyle Shanahan just kind of hit him, and then you got these weapons and you got all these things. I would say that what Brock is doing, because you call it like kind of a self-driving car, I think what Brock is doing, in my opinion, is the part that's impressive is just the level in which he's doing it. I do believe, like you, that this is a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of those situations where just don't mess it up. But I also think that Brock Purdy's doing more than just not messing it up. His efficiency is at like an all-time great level. Now, I think if you ask Kyle Shanahan, Kyle would tell you, well, yeah, this is my damn offense. And my offense, it's set up to where if you just are, really competent, don't mess it up, and just throw where I tell you to throw with the timing I tell you to throw it at, then you're going to be fine. And I think that's when we see the efficiency. You talked about Brock being 32nd in the NFL in passing attempts. I think technically he's like 32nd. 23rd in attempts. But the 49ers,
Mm-hmm.
like, so we're talking about like just as quarterbacks, he's like 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
But the 49ers as a team, because some guys get hurt, some guys like Kirk Cousins started playing, then he got hurt, whatever. As a team, the 49ers are 32nd in the league. But even then, Brock Purdy's like second or third in passing yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the efficiency part of it, in which, like, to the extent that he's doing it, I think that's the part that's super impressive. But I do agree that it is a well-oiled machine, and it kind of hurts Brock Purdy in these conversations because people see all these guys. And, I think I was just watching the Dolphins the other day, and Tua is like, he lost Tyreek Hill, and it's like, damn, they don't look the same, right? Like Tua doesn't look the same. People are like, oh, well, 49er fans are like, who would have thought if you lose one of your best players, you don't look as great? And I'm like, well, hold on. 49ers is a little different because you can lose Debo Samuel, but you still got Kittle. You still got Ayuk. You still got Christian McCaffrey,
Mm-hmm.
where most teams typically don't have that kind of luxury to have that many weapons at their disposal. Look at teams like, the Detroit Lions,
right,
and kind of what they're doing. You see guys coming on like Sam Laporta, the rookie out of, Iowa, and, you look at St. Brown and kind of what he's doing, but, Gibbs is coming on. You're starting to see him, but even then, it ain't like super supporting cast. So
right.
any one of those guys go down, it's going to hurt them a lot more in theory than the 49ers. But I definitely understand your point with Brock Purdy, especially I think the part for most, especially when you watch it and outsiders and you're watching Brock Purdy, and you guys will probably see some of this. You guys have a really good defense, the Ravens do, but you'll see some of this come Monday night. Brock is he finds the answer so fast with his processing.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looks too easy. And I think because it looks so easy with how he's doing it, people are like, oh no, see, like Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, but he does a great job of consistently finding the answer. And I think that's probably if I have like one thing I can say super positive about him, it's he's so consistent with just doing the little things over and over
Mm-hmm.
and over again. So and then every once in a while when he needs to make a play with his legs, he'll
It
move out
will.
the pocket
Mm-hmm.
and extend the play and then make a throw. And I think he kind of showed that a couple times last week. So it's an interesting discussion, and I hear all it takes. I hear that the Colin Cowherd or the Nick Wright and some of the things they say about Brock. 49 fan bases, they definitely get up in arms about it, but it's understandable when you watch this team and kind of see how easy Brock makes it look. But the MVP,
Does he have the answers to the test? Is Shanahan giving him the answers to the test, so to speak?
I think it helps to have Kyle Shanahan as an offensive coordinator because he said it's almost like this. Look, growing up as where I grew up, single mom, 3 kids, I'm saying, you kind of in the hood, and your mom, she only knows what she knows. So she
Right.
ain't really got all the answers to what life is gonna be. She can give you kind of some advice, but my mom, she didn't graduate high school. My mom, she didn't graduate college. You know what I'm saying? My dad, he was in and out of jail. So it's hard for them to truly give me the answers. All they know is what they know.
Right.
As opposed to a mom and dad who been there, done that, graduated high school, graduated college, owns their own business, whatever. Just the advice that they can give you, it just sets you up for
Mm-hmm.
more success. Now, whether you follow it or not, that's on you. And I think that's Brock Purdy, where his father, aka Kyle Shanahan, is the parent who graduated from high school, graduated from college as a just straight A's, you know what I'm saying? Graduated from college, was amazing there in school, super nerd, owns his own business, millionaire. Like, that's his dad. And his dad's like, all right, son, if you just listen to what I say, you're going to be good. And
Yep.
Brock Purdy does that to a T. And I think there's something to that, too, that shows kind of his ability to really process things and see it very well. So I think
That's a great
that's
analogy.
how I view it.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. All right, we got Tommy in the chat, and he says Darnold is doo doo. Now listen, everybody can't. You always got you got 2 kids a lot of times, right? One that follows everything that
One
you
up,
need to do, then you got the other one that's like,
that
why
wild
you,
child.
I'm setting you up, and you still can't do it. So I think that's Sam Darnold. We'll find out. I really don't know exactly what Sam Darnold would look like with this team. He came in for a couple plays last game. A lot of 49er fans were like, oh man, look at these 2 plays. He looks so chaotic. It's like, dude, calm down. We're talking about dudes fresh off the bench, throwing a couple passes. They didn't even ease him in with the run game. So I don't know what Sam Darnold is with the 49ers. We know what he was in the past, and it was a little closer to doo-doo than no.
My bad.
All right, here we go. Let's get to this next topic and really start to kind of get into the Ravens versus 49ers matchup and some key things that we're looking at. I want to start here with Baltimore Ravens linebackers and covers. This was a big question that came up yesterday when I was recording live. You had some my girl, Coach Desi, she kind of compared the two linebacker corps. She was like,
Mm-hmm.
Crock, you know, who's the better linebacker group? Is it Fred Warner and Greenlaw, or is it Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen? And she threw out some numbers and how well you guys are playing. I saw some people in the comments that are like, well, Croc, the Ravens defense has played more plays on defense than the 49ers. That's why they got more tackles, etc. But what are you seeing first, just with how they're playing? And then I would like to kind of double back on that and ask, like, what are they like in coverage? Because that's what Kyle Shanahan likes to target most.
And I was in your stream when she rattled those numbers off, and they were kind of taken aback by them too. But when you look at linebacker play for both squads, it can't be measured in numbers. And I realized that this year, with both squads, they do so much with getting people lined up and making sure the calls are right, that what they don't have to make all the tackles. when I look at that at Baltimore, we're getting pressure up front and play up front that we hadn't gotten in a long time from our defensive line crew. So, Roquan and PQ don't have to have 10, 11, 12, 13 tackles a game. But then in those cases where our defensive front gets dominated, you jump up and Roquan had 18 tackles a game. So they do what's needed to be done based off of what the offense does. Now with, your O line versus our D line, I think it's going to be a good matchup where they're going to have to make a bunch of tackles because I think CMC is the catalyst, so they're going to have to make a bunch of tackles. But with that being said, which leads back to your question, they do a decent job in coverage. I think PQ is better in coverage than Roquan, but Roquan doesn't suck. Roquan, like he gets his head around and he tries to apply pressure to anybody that crosses his face, whether it be technically covering them, but if it's within that 4 to 5 yard window on like little drags or whatever, he's trying to punch you in your mouth. So he's trying to disrupt the passing lanes. Now, when you slide Kyle down and kind of act as that third linebacker, you kind of muddle those windows up a little bit. But as far as coverage, they're decent. I don't want to say they're good. They're serviceable. They do their job. But depending on how well the run fakes are, I think you can get behind them with the play action because the run game is so good. Now, if we can stop the run with 4, or if we got a guy up front that's whooping like the guard center combination, then they're better in coverage. And what I see from your guys your guys are great in coverage because you got 4 guys in front of them that can stop the run by themselves. You got 4 monsters up there. So they only I watched one game or one series of plays where the team was play actioning and Warner and Greenlaw didn't even take a read step. They just sat there. Like, we don't care about your run. Yeah. We do not care about your run. And it was a play fake. So ball was snapped. Warner just looked. He ain't moved. They played fake. He didn't move. And then when the quarterback pulled the ball out, he went to his drop. I'm like, because they don't have to worry about the run as much. Because you got what, Hargrave, you got Armstead. I know some of the guys hurt. You got Chase, you got Bosa, you got the kid that came from Philadelphia. You got guys that can stop the run. You ain't gotta, be in the run fit as much. You need to be there if something pops off, but you ain't gotta be there as much. So you can kind of play coverage better. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, they flow very well when they do identify that it is a run. You see the 49ers linebackers, they trigger, they're fast, they're physical. I think they are kind of pesky too, especially Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw. Like, they're gonna talk trash, they're gonna hit you. Greenlaw's gonna toe that line. I call him a habitual line stepper. He reminds me a lot of Draymond Green. I think Draymond Green takes it to like another level, but it reminds me of Draymond Green, where typically if there's a bad face mask or a late hit or an unnecessary roughness, a lot of times you can look and see number 57 is Drake Greenlaw most of the time. So I think he's kind of that enforcer. You need that guy, but they flow well. I will talk about this with you guys being in coverage, and you asked about if the 49ers can kind of get the run game going. I don't think that the 49ers have a great drop back passing game. I think a lot of what they do off the pass is predicated off of the run action, right? So that's not even that the run game has to really be working or going, but just the threat of the run, they like to utilize that to really get those hitters behind them. So, we talked about how 49ers have thrown the ball the least amount of times out of every team in the NFL. Well, and still, second or third in passing yards. I think a big part of that is, man, they will show those play fakes. It'll look exactly like what you thought you saw the play before. And then next you know, quarterback's pulling and he has a deep crosser and it's Ayuk and it's Debo Samuel and they'll catch the ball and they get run. First of all, the throw will be between that 10 to 20 yard range. So it could be like 15 yards in the air. And then once they catch it, because of the window, a lot of times it's so massive, because the linebackers maybe steps up and opens up that window, they hit it with timing and rhythm. You see a lot of big yards after catch from that standpoint. I think that's how the 49ers, you see them being that team that's up there so much in yards per attempt per throw. You have some downfield throws more than we're used to seeing, but still a big part of it is getting those linebackers to take a step up, that re-step, as you like to say, and then hit that big crosser behind them. So if the 49ers can kind of get that going with your linebackers and make them see, hey, we're going to show you this run, and we expect you to bite. We're going to find out. Okay, they bite. Okay, let's show it to them one more time. All right, yep, they bite again. Okay, now we're gonna show it to you, and this time we're gonna pull it and we're gonna hit the linebackers behind them. So,
Mm-hmm.
or hit behind the linebackers. That's what Kyle Shanahan truly, truly, truly wants to do. But let's get more into this matchup and talk about some of the big bodies you guys have up front. You guys' defensive line, really, and I put in my notes. I said they have a reputation for having big bodies up front. Like that's how I know Baltimore, just big bodies on the offensive line, on the defensive line. How are those guys doing up front, especially versus the run right now? Because again, that's what the 49ers really want to get going.
So we most most of that old traditional defensive line package where you have these huge, massive zeros or ones. For the most part, league wise, those guys are few and far between. Now we do have one of those guys in Michael Pierce, and then his backup Travis Jones, and they have a good rotation going on. But our three tech is Matabike, and his body style, even though he's 3 something, but his body style is more along the lines of Aaron Donald. And I'm not calling him Aaron Donald. Don't jump my bone. I'm just saying the way his frame is made up, the way his body looks. He's not a big guy. He's big, but he's not like his stomach ain't hanging out his jersey and that. He's a put together dude. He's in shape. He's strong. He's powerful, and he is good against the run. What I do like, what we do is we got our edge guys. We've converted a linebacker to an edge guy, and he is one of our better edge setters. He's not a pass rusher, so he's normally in on first down. That's Malik Harrison. And you throw him on one side, and you can come back with.
Is he from Texas?
I don't know if he's where he's from, but he played Ohio State.
Okay, Ohio State. Okay, okay, okay.
He you put him on one side, and you can come back with Owe, and then whatever matchup of interior guys you got, whether it be Pierce, whether it be Travis Jones, whether it be Matabike, and lately Brent Irvin has played a lot better than most. So they do a good job of working together versus the run, but they are susceptible to some runs because we kind of refuse to load up on bigger guys. You probably won't see unless it's goal line us with 5 D linemen in the game, like maybe 3 D linemen and like 2 edge guys. We're pretty much going to stay in that the 2 D linemen, 2 D tackles, 2 edge guys, 2 linebackers, Hamilton, and then your umbrella coverage behind it. So we're susceptible to the run, but once you get inside the 20, for some strange reason, that defense kind of tightens up, and they play the run better inside the 20. We give up a lot of yards. I put it like that. We give up yards. We don't give a boatload of points, and that's a testament to the run game. Now, if you bust long runs, probably kick our butt. But the thing is we give them up early too. Second half, we always come out a different squad. If you look at the Rams game, the Rams were punishing us running to the right side. And for some strange reason, they decided they wanted to throw the ball, and they lost. Had they kept running, they might have won because we barely won anyway. But they decided they want to throw the ball for some strange reason and not continue to pound that spot, and they lost. But they do their job of front. They do a good job of stacking it, and they make plays. The thing is, if they can get you in pass rush situations, they become a better team. Well, better unit. I'm sorry.
We talked a lot about the linebackers. We talked a lot about Kyle Hamilton. We touched on the front guys. But what about on the outsides? Because 49ers, obviously have Deebo Samuel. You got Brandon Ayuk. Kyle utilizes them in a, very kind of, interesting way. It's not even so much about this guy 100% just winning one-on-one matchups.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it is more so scheme. So, your guys on the outside, how disciplined are they, with their eyes? Are they, suspect to, double moves? Are there any type of receivers on the outside that they've had more trouble with, whether it's just a big body guy at the catch point, or is it the shiftier guys or the route runners? And obviously 49ers, terrific run after catch guys that they have there. But, what is, I guess, how you guys view those outside cornerbacks for Baltimore?
So, and I alluded to this earlier. Obviously everybody knows Marlon Humphreys, and he's technically, should have been our number one guy. He probably, in theory, still is our number one guy. But Brandon Stevens was my huge question mark going into the season. And the kid is playing lights out. He's probably the most targeted guy, probably the most disrespected guy. And yeah, he give up plays, but what DB don't?
Right.
But he play in and play out, he's where he's supposed to be for the most part. I think he did give up the touchdown to Jacksonville, but that was miscommunication. But what I'll say about that is with that group as a whole, you think about Chase, Higgins, Boyd. They're quote unquote one or two best receiver groups in the NFL. They haven't since Chase dropped 200 on Marlon Humphreys 2 years ago. They really haven't done much against Baltimore. That group of receivers that's quote unquote the best group, and I say quote unquote because with Dolphins doing and whatnot, but still, we do a good job of showing you one thing pre-snap and being something totally different post-snap. Now that is the reason for some breakdowns in communication because you kind of may supposed to be high and you drop low, or you just kind of forget where you're supposed to be and we'll give up a bum or whatnot. But for the most part, if you catch us in man and you get a deep shot, you probably can win that. But we're going to play in some kind of zone, and it's going to look like one thing, and after snap, it's going to be another because you got Hamilton with the ability to be at the line of scrimmage, then be the post safety, or he got the ability to show you a cover two shell and drop down and be the rover, and then rotate another guy and be the post safety, or just Hamilton can be like lined up and he can be four across, and he'll blitz and the safety will come cover the other guy. So they do a good job of just changing what the pre-snap read looks like. So you can't say, oh, or then cover three, I'm gonna run these four verts.
Yeah.
Because it may look like that, and you have four verts called, and it'd be man, or it'd be cover two, or it'd be something like that. They do a good job of changing their coverages after the snap, which confuses a lot of quarterbacks, but I think it more so confuses the receivers that have those post-snap adjustments. And then that puts the receiver and the quarterback not on the same page because they see something different. So they do a good job of bottling guys up, but a lot of teams haven't been able to run consistently. And when you can run consistently, that puts gaps between like you said earlier, that put gaps between your linebackers and your safeties. And then if you get a guy like a Debo that once he gets the ball, he's a pit bull, or you get a guy like Ayuk that can just run away from people, or even Kittle for that matter. Kittle's gonna be huge, work in that area. So it's we do a good job of bottling those guys up, but we haven't played a team that's as efficient running the ball as you guys yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can focus on slowing down the run, but also not allowing people to get over the top of them and create big plays in the passing game.
All right, let's get over to the other side of the ball. All right, and I think the big question is Keaton Mitchell. Is Keaton Mitchell playing in this game?
He's done. He tore his ACL.
Tore his ACL. Okay, I knew he had.
I went to the game Sunday, and I could see it from the upper deck the way it happened. And when I got to the film a couple of days later, exactly what I saw from top rows, what happened. His leg was not. It wasn't pleasant to look at. So he's done. And he was starting. They were finally starting to use him the way I felt like they were using him. A lot of outside zone, a lot of inside zone, and letting like linebackers be over aggressive, and he cut back and scooped. So now he's not playing.
So without Keaton Mitchell, you still have Gus Edwards, and obviously you have the rushing threat of Lamar Jackson. But how do you see the offense of Baltimore matching up with the defense of the 49ers? Like, is there an area where you're like, you know what, we want to come out, and I think the Ravens will try to attack this area, whether it's a cornerback in Travarius Ward or Diamo Delanour. Maybe it's a safety. I know you guys got Zay Flowers. Or do you think, no, they're going to try to, we're not going to get outside of our identity. We'll try to ground and pound, do some read option or zone read type stuff. How do you see the Baltimore Ravens trying to attack the defense of the 49ers?
But that's you used the word that I was going to bring up, identity. We and me and a bunch of the fans, we don't really have an identity because we don't consistently do something. There's no one thing that we can hang our head on and say, hey, it's 3rd and 2. We know we're going to get this kind of play. Let's run it. Or it's 3rd and 7. We need this certain pass. We don't have like quote unquote identity, and which I talked about yesterday. It's twofold. So now the opposing team can't lock in on this certain type of play and say we got to stop this and we'll be okay. But then you don't have nothing that you can go to and say, when I got to have it, I'm gonna call this. So, but as far as what we attack, I mean, the D line's good, the linebackers are good. So obviously the secondary is I'm gonna say the bad part, but not as good part of the team, especially losing a Funga. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah, Funga, yeah.
Funga. Um, I think what they're gonna do is try to work. Make you defend the run. I don't think we're gonna be successful running it, but have pass plays, and our guy just gonna have to be Superman because those plays, those off kilter, off script scramble plays, like Lamar's got a bunch of rushing yards, but they are not the same rushing yards that he's had in the past. In the past, there've been a lot of QB counters, there've been a lot of zone reads, there've been a lot of power reads, there've been a lot of quarterback design runs. Now he's still getting 70, 80 yards rushing, but it's because he's dropped back and he ain't like what he see. He didn't like the read or whatnot, and then he's taking off. So I like those runs a lot more than those design runs because they put him on the edge where he can kind of get down and maybe get out of bounds. Whereas all those design runs were having him up the middle with the linebackers, and you see he didn't finish the past 2 seasons. So
Right.
what would they attack? I think it's gonna be a long fill out process. I think Todd's gonna have this script where he try to see what you do in different formations, and then second or third drive, his real plan comes out. Uh, Again, and I probably even answered the question, but I don't see very many flaws on that defense, especially when you guys can get so much pressure with four, damn near with two, with Jason and Bosa. So it's gonna be interesting to see, but Lamar's gonna have to he's gonna have to be really locked in. He's gonna have to be really locked in.
Yeah, you talked about the 49ers losing Hufunga at safety. They've inserted our third round pick, Jair Brown. He has multiple interceptions now. He's been doing well, filling in. And when you watch the all 22 on him, you see there've been a couple, I don't even want to call it coverage bust, but he's had a couple plays where he was overly aggressive coming down in coverage and somebody just blow right by him and the quarterback just not take advantage of it and just don't throw it at him. So the
Mm-hmm.
times that they have thrown it in his direction, maybe he was a single high, and he's done a terrific job of being that uh, safety who can cover a lot of space and run sideline to sideline, get interceptions. So that's been cool to see him kind of over the last 4 or 5 games or so since he's had to start playing in place of Hufunga. As far as everyone else, man, it is interesting because I think the 49ers, you talk about identity, we're going to use that word again. The identity of this team since Kyle Shanahan has come in 2017 has been we're going to build this defense up. We're going to build along the front, and then we'll play some coverage on the back end. But you do have Nick Bosa. You do have Hargraves and Armstead, who we hope are playing. Both those guys missed last game, and the Arizona Cardinals ran for 284 yards on the 49ers. It kind of got overshadowed by the fact 49ers just kind of blew them out. It was
Mm-hmm.
45-29, but 284 rushing yards given up. Some of it's the quarterback. Some of it was their running backs just running right up the middle
Mm-hmm.
and having some, gaping, gashing runs against the 49ers. Can't let that happen. So you're definitely going to need the two big dogs, Hargraves and Armstead there in the middle. But
But tell him it's Christmas, so stay at home.
right, like, hey, Armstead, stay home with your family. You got your young kid there. You stay home. But it will be interesting to see how the 49ers just really try to make Lamar Jackson and Baltimore one-dimensional. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what the 49ers try to do to most teams. Like, can we take you out of what you like to do? Or can we
Mm-hmm.
force you into this so then we know these things are coming? I think the one way that Baltimore can be super dangerous really throughout this game is if they keep the 49ers on their heels.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back to games like especially the Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, that was probably the most unbalanced the 49ers defense played all year, where they
Mm-hmm.
just were on their heels, had no idea what's coming. You got Mixon, he's running well. Burrow at one point completed 20 straight passes. I mean, it was just 49ers had zero answers, but they were so off balance. And for a Baltimore Ravens team, we'll see if they're able to do that. I don't know if Lamar is the same pure passer as
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow, but we do know he's dynamic in his own right. And as we talked about, being in an MVP consideration as he should be. So, how do they work to keep the 49ers defense unbalanced on their heels? That's probably going to be the biggest key for them. I think it might be a little bit more difficult without the speed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Keaton Mitchell. And I
I
think
just
that's when I watch 49ers kind of get hurt, is more that than a power back like Gus Edwards, or if a quarterback has to run and kind of, you know, be everything for Baltimore, that's going to be tough too. So I think that's going to be part of the one thing I'm really looking for. Do you have a key to victory for Baltimore? Like that one thing that you feel like, you know what, if Baltimore does this, they should have a really good chance of winning this game.
Stay ahead of the sticks.
Yeah.
Stay ahead of the sticks. Control the clock. Those two things go hand in hand. You win a time of possession. Stay ahead of the sticks. You should be good. Don't let Chase and Bosa be in just straight pass rush mode because we do not. I repeat, do not. We don't not. I know it's a double negative. Have the tackles to constantly defend Chase and Bosa and when they're in pass rush mode. So the game has to stay close. We got to stay in front of the sticks because if they get in pass rush mode or we get in third and long, our tackles they ain't gonna hold up constantly facing that pressure.
Gotcha. In the chat, we got a Q Dog in here. He says, "Get a lead on the Niners and see how they react. They're the ultimate front runners. See if they can come back." And I would say, can you have a lead late in the game? Because we've seen the 49ers come back from, not having the lead early on. We saw it against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
They had two really good drives to start the game. 49ers, I think, maybe had 6 yards in the first half. First
You were
quarter.
losing to the Seahawks too, right?
Yeah, so and close game, losing at some point. So we've seen the 49ers in the first half be trailing and then come back. Saw it with 49ers early in the season against the Rams, where it's like you're down 10-17, then I think they got to score right before halftime. But when the 49ers have been down late, that's when they've gotten a little tight,
Mm-hmm.
So for Baltimore, it's can you hang around, and maybe take a late lead and make the 49ers feel a little bit more uncomfortable, make them play a little bit more tight. And I think that would be when we talk about 49ers being ultimate front runners. I think they are. I think that's a great example of what they are because once they get on you, they are
on you.
pour it on and pour it on and pour it on.
Yep.
Games where, again, late in the game, it's like, okay, you didn't pour it on this team. It's really close. It's really tight. They kind of struggled in that scenario. And when you look at the 3 straight losses the 49ers had against the Cleveland Browns with their third string quarterback playing, PJ Walker. When you look at the Minnesota Vikings game with, Kirk Cousins without, he didn't even have Justin Jefferson. You look at the Cincinnati Bengal game, you can maybe say, well, 49ers, they didn't have Debo. They didn't have Trent Williams. And I'm pretty sure that has something to do with it. But for me, in each of those games, you had a chance late. And each time you fell short because I felt like they were a little tight, whether it was the kicker missing a field goal, where he was just tight in that moment. All right. Whether it's Brock Purdy turning the ball over multiple times late in the Vikings game, and he got concussed in that game. So maybe it was a concussion, but then he came back the next week. Maybe he still had some concussion things going on, but turning the ball over 3 times in the second half against the Bengals, 2 times late in the fourth quarter. So they've gotten a little tight in those moments. Maybe it's because they're missing a couple guys, but in my opinion, you got to figure out a way to get those wins. So if there is one thing we've seen from the 49ers, it's can you have a lead late on the Niners and then make them have to come from behind, even if it's a touchdown, even if it's a 4-point game, but the pressure is on you. That's the moment we haven't seen them do well in yet. So I think for the Ravens, it's keep it close, take a late lead, and see how the 49ers react. Because if you let the 49ers start scoring early on, they'll hang 40 on you in a heartbeat. And from there,
that pass rush is ridiculous. Let me ask you the same question you asked me. What would be your keys to victory? What would you got? What do you think they should attack?
I think the biggest thing for the 49ers, man, is don't turn the ball over. I've seen these games sometimes where, you turn the ball over, you're losing it. I think that's the key for everybody, right? Like, don't turn the ball over. Win the turnover battle. You coach. You just told me, man, you coached for 21 years, right? You took this year off, but you might get back into it. I'm pretty sure the main thing you tell your kids, we got to win the turnover battle, right? Like, take care of the rock. So for the 49ers, I think that's true because when they don't turn it over, man, they just score at such a high clip. And we see that. They're one of, top 3 highest scoring teams in the league, and they can pour 40 points on anyone, on any defense. But when they turn the ball over, it can kind of muddy those waters a little bit or make a game closer. You brought up Seattle. There was a game a couple weeks ago where 49ers are up multiple scores. It looks like they're going to run away from it. Brock Purdy throws the ball. It goes tips off a guy's hand, picked off, and next thing you know, it's a pick 6. And it just makes the game a little closer, right, than it really even ever should have been. So for me, it's, a lot of teams, when you might go into a game and you're a little short-handed, or you just know, man, this team is better than us, so we got to play our best football. I think the 49ers go into every game just knowing if we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, like we're the best team, they probably feel like, hey, we're the best team anytime we step on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So just don't do anything to hurt yourself. And then from there, just the talent kind of takes over on both sides of the ball. So really take care of the ball more than anything else. And I think for the 49ers, probably recipe for their success, really throughout the year.
True. I agree with all that.
All right. Any last thing? Do you have any predictions, score predictions, or anything like that?
Man, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be tight, man. I hope it's tight and we win. So I am hoping we win, but I'm looking at 27-28, 31-30, somewhere along those lines. And I'm just hoping for a good game. I want us to win. I want to see a blowout either way. I would love to see it's a good football game that we could see a same type game in February.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hoping for.
I think this might be a Super Bowl preview. I think that's my thing too. I hate watching blowouts, and the 49ers have had a lot of these games where by halftime the game is kind of over, and you just kind of watch the rest of the game just to kind of talk about it on YouTube or talk about it on my podcast, Locked On 49ers. But I love watching the close game. I think for me, being in here watching the game with the family, not going to the game, those tickets are ridiculous, bro. It's like I was gonna take my boys. They're talking about for 3 tickets. It's like over 900. It was like over $900 for 3 tickets.
You in the best seat right there.
You're right, best seat right here in the house. So, and I just hope let's watch a good football game, something that comes down to the wire. Make me sweat a little bit, but the 49ers come out with a win. So, if I had to guess, I would say 30-24. 49ers, something along those lines, as long as the weather holds up. So that'd be fun. But
what is the weather supposed to be like?
Last I checked, it's supposed to be fine out there in San Jose. Let me look right now. I got the weather app for y'all, pulling it up. We're going to San Jose, Santa Clara. All right, Santa. There we go. Hold on. All right.
I went Sunday and it rained all day until right before kickoff, which I was grateful for. I didn't no rain on me, but it rained all day and they played okay on a obviously wet field, but it didn't. Nobody looked like they were slipping from either team. So I'm just wondering what the weather would be like out there.
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. We've had a lot of rain up this way, Bay Area. I live in the valley, the Central Valley, so we kind of get a little bit different weather. But it's been raining a lot over the last week or so. It looks like for Santa Clara, San Jose area, you ain't getting no rain until next Wednesday. So clear skies come Sunday, high of 58. So it's not going to be super cold during the game. Game kicks off around 5:00, 5:30. I would say probably around 50 degrees or whatever. So kind of really good football weather where we shouldn't see too many cramps or anything like that. No humidity at all in those parts. So they should be good, man. They should be good. All right, man. Coach Evans, it's been a pleasure. We've been talking for almost an hour now. Shout out to all the Ravens in the chat. Appreciate all y'all. Everybody, man, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Coach Evans, tell everybody where they can find you.
On Twitter, you can find me at Coach Evans 9. On Instagram, TikTok, and obviously on YouTube, it's Sip the Tally. So I appreciate you guys. Even if you're a 49ers fan, come over there and follow because I have content that's not just Ravens. If you like good football, you like good X's and O's, come on over, man. Join us.
All right, sounds good. But 49 faithful, I'll see y'all Tuesday after the game. Till then, I'm out. Peace.